Hello, everyone. Great to see you. Happy Tuesday afternoon. Um, we are going live. Apartment Ninja Warrior going to be talking about today the state of the market and what I'm seeing out there when it comes to underwriting deals and the importance of how we must understand asset management, the proper implementation of a business plan in order to be able to operate in this current environment with any future deals coming our way. So with that, I'm just going to give everyone an opportunity just to get logged in here and get settled, and then I will kind of hop into it and just kind of share some thoughts here on how to operate or how to underwrite and operate in today's marketplace. All right, and while we wait, just go ahead and drop there in the chat. Let me know where you're from. I always like to stay connected with everyone, so let me know where you're calling in from, and we'll get started. Excellent, excellent. All right, great to see you there. Cool. All right, so today we're going to be talking about how to underwrite in today's marketplace, considering everything going on and what we're seeing in the marketplace. Of course, right now, considering what we have are a lot of headwinds. If anyone that's underwriting deals, you're experiencing the frustration, why are these deals not underwriting? Well, first of all, of course, we have high interest rates. Still, we have uncertainty of whether or not the rates are going to decrease. The Fed's meeting today and tomorrow. Most likely, I think they're going to pause here, and we may have a couple drops here later this year, but maybe no more than about 25 points a piece, maybe 50 points, basis point drop total this year. We have higher vacancies than normal. We have higher delinquency than normal. Our year-over-year rent growth is in the decline. And so the added effect of that makes it very difficult to underwrite deals. When you have a high delinquency, high vacancy, you got to lower your rents in order to be able to fill these units up. And can you imagine buying a property at the top of the market right now, thinking it's going to go up, but then you buy the deal and the rents go down? You actually buy a property and then it starts losing money day one because the market is in the decline right now. You have to be very careful with that and make sure you take that into account. Additionally, expenses are extremely high, and expense ratios are getting higher and higher. Used to be able to operate these properties around 35, 40%. Now we're seeing around 45, 47%, 48% because of insurance and taxes and labor costs. And because of the lower income, because of higher vacancy, lower occupancy, the expense ratios are increasing and it's slowing down these properties. It's hard to create value and improve the NOI. And in the previous cycle, before the interest rate hike, we embarked upon an era, a golden era of historically low interest rates and historically high rent growth. And a lot of this recent rent growth we experienced during COVID, in my opinion, was artificial. You had accelerated migration. Migration was already taking place from the coastal cities to some of these Midwest and southern areas as people were moving from New York to Dallas, New York to Texas, New York to Florida, from California to Salt Lake, California to Oklahoma and Kansas City. A lot of the rent growth was driven by accelerated migration because people didn't want to live in these coastal areas during COVID. Additionally, we had a lot of rental assistance money that came in, even though people weren't working or they were staying home. Employers couldn't pay for their income, but the government stepped in and started issuing out all this free money. We couldn't evict them, so we had high rental income come in and it covered the rents, and we had a tremendous amount of rent growth that took place. But now with the rental assistance money being used up and being burned off, there is no more assistance. There's no more income coming in to help continue to drive rent growth. Additionally, if you look at the jobs reports, there's a lot of disparity or confusion there. Even though job market is doing better than expected, it's not really creating a lot more productivity in the marketplace, where you have high GDP, even though all this money was issued out into the macro economy, has it actually created an increase in productivity where there's more and more and more jobs, people making more money, where maybe there's wage growth, but they're working fewer hours at the end of the day. And then with inflation on the rise, it basically eats up all of their additional income and it puts a headwind on your ability to raise rents. So it's a challenge to raise rents. But rent growth is what drives this business. Rent growth is what makes this business work. And if you're in a market where you have a negative rent growth, how are you going to make these deals work? And how are you going to be able to, again, improve the NOI and improve the value? And let's just take a look here on some data points. I'm going to share my screen now. And this is a CoStar report of a property, I think in Arizona. And a lot of the CoStar reports you pull, if you look at the rent growth section, they pretty much all look like this, where you have the orange bar graph showing market rent growth year over year. And you can see that we're in rents in the rent range in the Phoenix market areas, we're in the $1,300–1,400 range. And you had pretty strong rent growth around the 6–7% range. And then as COVID kicked in and all that rental assistance came in and extreme migration took place and high demand for places to live, our rent growth just shot up tremendously. And this is when all the COVID money came in, all the rental assistance money came in. Same time, this is when debt was really, really, really cheap and people were getting bridge debt financing and scooping up these properties. And rent growth shot up into the 15, 17, 18, 19, 20%. But then again, as that rental assistance money burned off and people were forced to have to go back to work and they didn't, they stopped participating, huge delinquencies took place and huge vacancy loss started taking place as we finally were able to start evicting people. And because of that, you have to lower rents. Additionally, all of the new product was coming online as builders were getting deals to underwrite and developers getting deals to underwrite in this period. It takes about 2 years to be able to do that. And then all of this new product comes online and that has a trickle down watering effect. All the new product then creates these glass ceilings within each asset class where you can no longer raise rents to the same degree and level you were before. And this is for a Class C property here on this chart. And you can see right now where this dashed line, vertical line is, we are in a negative rent growth in this particular submarket. Negative, I think 1.2 points or so, which is not good. And, but you may be projecting rent growth here. But the question is, given where debt is, and given where current pricing is this rent growth, say around 3%, enough growth to be able to make deals underwrite and create the cash flow that you want to create? And they say that there's a supply-demand imbalance, and we're hugely undersupplied on having enough rental product for workforce housing, and that because they're no longer building that, there's going to be a huge demand coming up in the future because there's no more units coming online, that you should have really large rent growth. But you may have higher rent growth than you have now, but this is still in line with inflation. Inflation ideally is around 2%. This is, say, just above inflation, 3.5%, 4% maybe, but nothing like we experienced before COVID in the 6, 7, 8% range, especially during COVID. It's still going to be around 3%. The question is, unless you have a huge drop in interest rates, are you going to be able to make deals underwrite? And what I'm seeing is no, unless you have, again, a huge drop in interest rates or pricing definitely softens. I'm not seeing that. And then if you look at all the products coming online, again, a lot of product coming online here in Phoenix market here. A lot came online during last year, but 23 definitely jumped up, and it's going to jump up again now, 24, and towards the end of 24, then it's going to drop off. But does that have a huge impact on rent growth? Not seeing the huge impact on rent growth right there. On growth, basically. And we're just underwriting the growth number. And so how are we going to be able to add value? Let's take a look at a property here. Just for example, we sketched property, and this is in Lawton, but I just want to share kind of high level some thoughts here. So say we're at 6% and we just lowered it by 50 basis points because the market's going to drop 50 basis points. What kind of increase did that have on cash flow? Not much. 5.5, not much increase on cash flow. They're asking 8.2, maybe we can get it for 8. Maybe we can get it for 7.8. Probably not, but maybe a little bit better improvement cash flow. Now let's take a look at rent growth. How much impact does rent growth have on the marketplace? If we get to the level that everyone says we're going to get to, which is maybe going to be around, based upon the chart, even though it's not the same market, this is going to be less than that. So say around, chart was around 3.5. This is say 3%. 3% for a couple of years, you have really strong rent growth, increases cash flow a little bit, total returns a little bit. What kind of rent growth should we be seeing in order to really create that cash flow? 5, 6%. Then that has a very significant impact on total returns and on cash on cash. If you have higher growth, you can probably borrow a little bit more money. You can lever up a little bit higher debt cover here, pretty significant debt coverage. So you could probably borrow a little bit money, right? Improve your returns that way. And that starts to improve, get a little bit more debt cover, borrow more dollars. But, are we going to experience 5% rent growth? According to the charts right now, we're not. So where is this growth going to come from? It's going to come from your ability to execute. It's going to come from your ability to minimize your vacancy loss. It's going to come from not renting to bad tenants, not having delinquency. It's going to come from having a lower economic vacancy number. Currently, right now, we're at 25%, pretty conservative. We're experiencing about a 5% growth overall. Other income is significantly higher. Definitely would want to stress test that and look into that deeper. But 5% is typically what we underwrote to on T3 to year 1. But we're going to really have to know how to implement a business plan correctly and unfold a rehab plan in order to create that type of growth that we're looking for. And if we go from, say, 25% down to 18%, significant increase in our total income. And then that builds upon itself moving down the line. And this would decrease, and this would decrease. And you have significant income growth then, or up to the 122.9% range, let's say. And say we're not there on the rent growth, but we're there on managing our project overall, minimizing our vacancy loss, and then the deal starts to underwrite. So my point is, you're probably not going to experience that rent growth that we're talking about. And before, the saying was survive to 25. Now we're thinking 26, maybe even 27, until the market completely turns. And there's a lot of uncertainty still in the marketplace. We have an election coming up. We still don't know exactly what the economy is going to do. We have a lot of geopolitical situations taking place with Taiwan, with the Middle East, as well as with Ukraine. And we need to understand what kind of impact that's going to have on the macro economy, and how is that going to have a direct impact on multifamily investing. And in my mind, all roads comes back to just understanding sound, proper execution and asset management, and really knowing how to implement a rehab plan and applying appropriate rent bumps, minimizing your costs, minimizing your expenses in order to create these returns. This strong rent growth that we realized on in the previous cycles, where we're in the 6, 7, 8%. This is kind of a bubble here. I don't want to pay too much attention to that, but these levels here, where you have really strong growth, I don't see that coming. And so unless we have a dramatic increase or softening of pricing, it's going to have to come from our economic vacancy number and learning how to minimize that. And if you want to learn more how to do that, that is exactly what we focus on here at the Apartment Ninja Warrior Academy. I share with you exactly the critical path you must take a property on where you're minimizing your vacancy loss, minimizing your bad debt, all of your economic losses, you're minimizing those so that you can maximize your income and maximize your NOI and still push the property along and still create a return and still create cash flow for your investors. And if you want to learn more, I encourage you to join my Facebook group, Apartment Ninja Warriors, and or you can book a call, join the group and book a call, or just reach out to me through DMs and we can book a call that way. And if you have a property that maybe you're going through some challenges right now, or you're looking at a deal where you scratch your head wondering if you're going to be able to get a deal this year or being able to get a deal to underwrite, knowing these challenges that I talked about with the rent growth challenges and still the debt side of things and not having debts come down, it's going to come from your ability to execute. And that's why I stress so heavily on asset management and operations and execution. And that's why, again, we're here for helping people through the Apartment Ninja Warrior Academy. So that is all that I have today. Look forward to connecting with you, and I will see you next time.